Oh, I guess I also should try talking more since I guess you make it the majority of the fucking content in these videos.
Yeah. And my voice isn't even coming through all the time. It's the mic quality. If you check the videos like from video to video, the quality changes. Like it's good, but I sound different.
Well, Mangler, I guess you should be proud that your voice, even like when not fully there, can still carry everything.
Oh no.
I just don't go to the fucking. Well, I do go to some full depth gameplay discussion, but my full depth gameplay discussion and stuff like that is like way different than your guys's. I'm like casual about it, and you and fucking Devil over there are like, let me tell you everything about this in every
Let me
fucking data.
let me commit you to my religion.
That's basically how it fucking goes.
So,
Okay,
are
so
we
yeah,
recording?
yeah, we're recording now.
All right,
We left
great.
off on gameplay. I think the last thing we left off on was we got done talking about the characters and
And
that.
their kits and
Yeah,
their interactions
so I guess
specifically.
let's start with monsters
Mm,
or enemy. I guess enemy types. Or do you want to talk level first?
level design is a little weird because I think I have to have DMC5 open to talk about that because as far as the level design, most of it is just kind of like. I mean, I guess we could talk about. What do you want to talk about?
Well, okay, I guess first let's start with some basic level design because I do agree like not having the game open in front of me and going through each level is going to be very different. So I think let's cover overall the basic level design. Like with every standard DMC game, level design is point A to point B. Although
Mm,
unlike three, actually I think like unlike all the other games, I think you can do this in every single game. It's not as free roamy as the other games used to be. Like in the other games, you could load up past sections of other levels by going backwards and shit. You can't do that in DMC5, as far as I'm aware. It like
mm.
forces you forward. You can't really go back half the time.
Well, you can and you can't. Certain levels you can. Like you can go back and forth in like mission 1 and 2 and most of Nero's missions. There are some missions like certain missions in 5 that are really unique from the rest of the series are like Dante's missions in the later portion of the game. Like in mission what's it called? In any of the missions like mission 18 or mission I think 8 for Nero, you have those little blood elevators where you basically take them and you can't go back. Like it sends you into a new area.
Yeah.
Or if Dante's going to fight Cerberus, he has to drop down from one area to another. And he can
Yeah.
only go back and forth in the area where he lands. He can't retreat.
Yeah, and you also
So
can't fly up, so you can't like go back to other areas like even when you fall even before boss like pits and shit like that.
yeah, it's kind of like I would say the areas that are a little bit like some of my favorite levels are the ones where I can go back and forth. I definitely prefer Nero's earliest levels, as well as like some of V's earliest levels. But I think even V has like places where his levels get cut off or sectioned. Like when he crosses the bridge in his first level, I'm pretty sure you can't go back.
You
Uh,
cannot go back on that one.
also, right before you jump off to go off to the bridge, you can't go back, and you can't respawn the enemies. I wish you could. I wish you could like respawn them and fight them. That is one thing that I think like level design has a detriment to in this game because it's something that would be much more useful for training. I do mention that you can go back and replay these levels, but the reason I mentioned replaying them rather than just re-entering the room is because in a lot of cases you can't just respawn the enemies. In 3, you could play mission 3, and you could turn around and go back into the area in front of Dante's shop in mission 2 and kill enemies there as much as you want and just practice. It
Yeah.
was great. It was basically a pseudo training room, and it's one of the reasons why it didn't need a training room because it had solid enemies in the first areas where you would have wanted to train and where it gives you a pretty good basis to practice. And even mission 3 at the beginning gives you a really good outline for like ranged enemies. I don't think the same sort of thing exists in the same capacity for DMC5 because even though you have a good training area in 2 and mission 2 for basic enemies, ranged enemies are not utilized very well in the level design.
In
Like you
five,
don't get them. Yeah, so like the fire bats, for example,
the
like they
fire
don't
bats
show
are
up anywhere in this.
the fire bats are fucking cancer.
Well, they can be, but they're pretty easy to manage. It's just like,
No, it's just like annoying. Like I'm talking about the big ones, not the small ones right now. Cause
oh
I just
well,
remembered fucking Dante's little dome area where you first encountered the big ones.
yeah. I guess the level design and enemy variety will sort of have to be talked about in tangent. I'll save bosses for its own section because they're completely different. But as far as like basic enemies, um, it is important to note that one of the reasons I think DMC5 kind of suffers a little in terms of its level design is that enemies, like aerial enemies, don't challenge you enough in this game. Like, if you know what you're doing in the air, you're using air taunts with Nero or with Dante, um, or with like your air hikes and your various like jump cancels, you're not going to get challenged. You're completely safe. The enemies on the ground can't really challenge you. DMC3 at least has some like anti-air options. Some of the prides, some of the lusts, like they can do uppercuts on the higher difficulties. The enigmas can try and snipe you out of the air. The blood coils can literally fly up to you. Like there are ways to challenge you. The air is not your heaven, and you also have limited air options in 3 compared to 4. And in 4, obviously, you have like various floaty enemies and like the Angelos and stuff. Like you can't just make the air your haven and assume that there's going to be no consequences for you if you stay up there too long, because there are. In 5, it doesn't feel so much the same way. I mean, yeah, I think there should always be enemies that no matter what can get turned into combo food, but you shouldn't be unmatched or unchallenged in the air.
They should have had
That's
Angelos
one.
be able to fly.
Yeah, no, the proto Angelos should have been able to like uppercut you or something. Like the fact that they just kind of sit there on the ground and just wait, like they look so lonely. They're just sitting there like, hey, come down, please. You're like,
No.
no. How about no?
So what
I
was
understand the proto Angelos, but like the school do Angelos, they should have been able to come up there. The fire bats were pretty good as far as aerial enemies. It's just they don't they don't show up enough. Like they don't spawn enough. They spawn way too many of those Hell Antoras, the ones that like when you attack them, they just immediately retaliate with the purple veins on their body and their butcher knives.
I fucking hate those guys.
Yeah, they can't be properly comboed because they don't like. This is getting more into enemy design than level design, but like,
Okay, I guess let's try it. I guess let's try and work it
well,
back first.
okay, so we'll work these work hand in hand. So this will be like a dual section. Okay, all you need to know for DMC is that the environments, they don't, aesthetically wise, they don't look as well. They don't look like as pretty as some of the other ones were. They're not as like horror based, like gothic architecture, right? Not
Ruined
in
the
the same way that
game.
like 3 or 1 is. They still look nice as far as the graphics. As far as gameplay, I think they're pretty serviceable. Most of them are large open arenas where you can use whatever you need at your disposal. You have enough space to do whatever the hell you want. It's just traversal is kind of weird. Like as we said, there are certain missions like mission 16 or mission 18 or mission 8 where you just go forward and you can't come back. Or like missions with V where you just go forward and like the section is cut off and you only have the boss area up ahead or something.
Yeah.
Um, and you can't like replay some portions of the levels and go back because the thing about these levels is that they're more uh, like what made the levels loadable in the original games was that they were cut off by doors, so they would only preset like a loaded area. This way the game had the ability to respawn enemies, which I still think, like, I think Capcom just wanted to be ambitious. They wanted to show that they could load the entire area with all of its graphics,
All right,
which
take
is
it easy
good.
there, God of War.
Which is good because they gave you control, unlike God of War. Um, but they didn't give you the ability. Like part of being able to go back and fight enemies was learning their patterns. That was a really good idea. Yeah, the void is useful, but like, I mean, you only practice on one enemy at the time in the void. It's not like you can summon like 5 enemies, which would be really cool.
Yeah, I will say regarding the Void, and I know this is a bit off topic, but I was really surprised at how limited the Void actually ended up being.
Oh wait, we didn't make a section for. Well, okay, we'll go over the void and bloody
Technically, it is a
palace and
level.
quality of life improvements. We'll go over that in quality of life improvements. Um, do you have something you wanted to say? I cut you off.
No, I was gonna say technically it is a level.
Oh, oh. um, well, I think most of the areas they're pretty good as far as DMC levels. Like they look really nice, but as far as level design goes, like aesthetic counts very very little since this is a gameplay section we're talking about. Aesthetic is very very little. As long if I can't see, okay, then aesthetic matters. If I can see and it's bright enough and it's not huge color dynamic contrasts like in the reboot where you have like the nightclub and you're literally having a seizure because of the colors. Like unless it's something like that or it's like super super dark and damp and I can't see anything at all. Generally speaking, as long as just the area is fine, even if it's barren and there's nothing there, that's fine. Because this game is about gameplay and areas in which I can test that, or the not just game, the combat system. So, as long as I have serviceable enemies, I can do that. My problem with this game and some of its enemies is that it spawns a lot of enemies that I would probably refer to as undesirable, like hell on Taurus. Like, hey, attack me, I immediately retaliate. Like that was kind of stupid. Um, the nobody's not being able to be staggered outside of like super specific
I
setups.
fucking hate the way that nobodies were introduced in this game.
Um,
They were way worse than they were in DMC. Like they
I,
weren't
I
as
think in one they
bullshit.
were a lot better, but like I think they needed to be buffed in one, and they were like, all right, let's buff them, but like to the moon. Like they buffed them way too much in five.
Yeah, because I was gonna say like they are better technically in fucking five than they are in one.
Absolutely, but they buffed them. Just there should have been a middle ground. Like,
Middle ground? What the fuck
did
does
someone
that
look
mean?
at this? Did someone look at this and think like, "Oh my god, this is acceptable"? Because even on Devil Hunter, they have a shitload of health. On Son of Sparta, they have an amazingly high amount of health. On DMD, oh my god, if like a nobody DTs before you do it, damage it at all, you're gonna be stuck there forever. Like
Welcome to
that is
my world
insufferable.
now.
See, I can deal with the DT Proto Angelo, the
Which is still
DMD
fucking
DT Proto.
stupidly
It's
fucking.
still it's still stupid, but at least the Proto Angelo is super honest. Like I don't look at the Proto Angelo and think, man, you're a degenerate enemy. No, he's an enemy that telegraphs his attacks pretty well. He makes it clear when he's going to strike. He has places of vulnerability if you beat him up the correct way, and you get rewarded for knowing how to fight him. Nobody's don't have any of this in design. They just immediately try to grab you and super armor through everything you do, and they require like super specific setups based on what mask they're wearing, which is dumb. I never got the opportunity to like learn that stuff because I hated approaching them at all.
I know they wear different masks, but unlike in DMC one where it kind of felt the difference, I never noticed like a specific difference in like attack ability from with each
That
mask.
that's because they didn't have anywhere near as much armor. They could be staggered properly, and their health was overall much more manageable. So you could learn a lot more of their mechanics on higher difficulties because you had the capacity to do so. Even though you could take much more damage in DMD and DMC one than you could in DMC five, it was a lot more feasible. All right. Um, so besides the basic enemies, I'd say like as far as this roster compared to some of the other ones, well, actually, I'm gonna have to get DMC5 out for this, but I'm trying to
You're
remember
at
some of the other ones.
the enemy roster right now.
Yeah. So, the goat casting demons. So I like these and I don't like these. The ice goats. I fucking love those. I think they did ranged enemy the way that they made like I want to say spellcasters like magicians in like as far as like demonic like magic casting creatures. I think they did those well because again they do run away and they evade, but they don't run away like for a million years. When they fire projectiles at you, they have pretty good windup, so you can tell what they're doing. Right? The ice shield isn't completely impenetrable. It's a little strong, but it's not anything that's too concerning.
It's not something that
And
would inherently make you fucking break like your fucking controller in rage.
yeah, no, you can just it's manageable. Like, and once you break it, you can punish them forever. And they again, they can run away if you mess up an opportunity to punish them. But generally speaking, they will pay the ultimate price if they fuck up, which is good. On the other hand, the black magic like purple three-headed goat, fuck that guy. Okay, the complete opposite of what I just said about the ice casting goats. He God, I really need to get my DMC5 open. I don't know why I didn't have
I
this.
don't think it's actually I don't think it actually is a goat. Like I think it's specified it started as a goat, but by the time you get to it, it's just a blob full of fucking mouths.
Yeah, well, it's one of the enemies that Nico says that this is just kind of like the Fury. It basically thinks of one desire that it wants above all else, and this is like, I guess this one is a representation of like magic or something.
You know, I was actually gonna say for me, does she ever confirm? Because I don't remember this. Does she ever confirm in the game whether or not fucking the original lizard guys end up becoming Furies or no?
Which lizards? You mean the riots?
Yeah, because it's riots. Yeah, that's what they're called.
I don't think so. Hang on, let me check. You just keep talking. I gotta.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and finish off level design here a little bit since we're already kind of swapping over the characters. Yeah, level design linear, a lot more linear than the other games. Well, I don't think that's inherently bad. I can't help but wonder if they did that because level games have been recently dying. Like maybe they decided to show off that level games can do this. I don't know. It just seemed a little fucking weird how specific this was, the situation at hand.
Yeah, I think they were. What's it called? I think that the levels, as far as enemies, are serviceable. It's just what enemies are there should have been like reorganized.
Also,
we should have had more enemies, and we should have been able to go back through certain portions and like through checkpoints.
Some arenas were also kind of whack.
Yeah, like again not being able to go through certain areas in like Dante's missions. Okay, as long as each character had like one or two missions where they could just go back and practice against like the most common enemies in the game, I think that would have been fine. Part of this also could have been alleviated if void mode had been able to summon multiple people, but that's another discussion entirely. Just need to mention it. Also, as far as I'll mention this now before we get into the bosses, boss arenas were done pretty well. Most of them, again, regardless of what you think, most of them gave you more than enough room to move around. You knew exactly where you were able to go. And you weren't ever being like the only place where I can say something doesn't work as far as a boss arena, like it's either too cramped, too tight, it fucks with the camera angle, is Nihog. Nihog's boss fight was awful because of the camera and the spacing.
Nihog was just an awful boss to begin with.
Even regarding that, it would have been so much better if it had been like a circular boss fight. Oh my god. Like, yeah, no, it still would have been bad, but like...
Well, okay. I think one of the bigger problems with the boss fight as a whole was just simply the fact that you are forced to be right in front of it. There's no way to move around it.
Yeah, that is the biggest issue with the boss fight. It's not that it's like, oh, like three attacks and then we just manage this. Nah, those are fine. Okay, so now I have it out here. So the name of the attack was the name of them was the Baphomet, which is the basically the ice goat. The Lucichia. I probably am butchering this.
It's called Lucitina.
Lucichia.
What the?
Lussachia.
That just sounds whack.
Yeah, no, this thing is not three-headed. It's got multiple heads. So, my problem with this boss, or with this, well, I guess this mini-boss, because some of them are defined, some of the minor enemies are defined as bosses.
Yeah, like Furies and shit.
I don't think this one is, but I would argue it's close to being a mini-boss.
Basically, every evolved boss, or every evolved minion is basically categorized as mini-boss.
Yeah. So I think it's fair to call them a mini-boss. This thing is trash for all the reasons that it shouldn't have been. So It should have just been an electrical, like dark magic version of that had different projectiles and maybe had the ability to challenge you in close quarters. Instead, it has a shield that takes a million years to destroy. When you punish it, you can't punish it outside of like a normal combo, and then it just teleports away. And then it has like really, really short range tracking projectiles, along with like curses that it can use on you that are really, again, the tells are really bad for them. Avoiding them is terrible unless you've got like Royal Guard for Dante, or unless you have like DT or a breakaway. I didn't like them. They were not manageable in the slightest.
Yeah, they could have been done significantly better. I remember playing as Nero and like just being fucking annoyed if I fucked up. They're just like, I'm gonna go fucking ruin your day now.
So I'm gonna put Skuldos, Riots, what's it called? Hellcanas. Probably, I'd say Impuzas and Baphomets. Well, and not Baphomets.
I'm pretty sure we can all agree that all fucking low-level monsters were not that bad.
Yeah, no. Even the Chaos, which I'd say is like probably a mid-tier demon, it's the one that the spins on the roly-polies. I thought those were going to be terrible because they had like that weird poison effect that comes by. But they're actually way more manageable because you can stop them down with guns. You can do various grapple effects. You can juggle them. They are essentially the Mega Scarecrow with the body of a Riot and like the mechanics of a Riot with like an extra poison effect, which I thought was really cool, and it was very well executed. Because again, you can stop their spins. You can juggle them in midair after you get them up, and they won't break out of your combos randomly. They'll still fight back. Granted, they will fight back. They will not like they will not fuck around. But if you get them in their combo, if they mess up in their attacks, they pay the price for them. They don't just randomly break out like the freaking Hell Judica does or the Fury or something, like just because they can. Riots fall under the same distinction. Riots are even more fun. Arguably, Riots are probably one of the best enemies in this game.
Fuck some people, no.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
No. No, I fucking hate Riots. They always pop up in small fucking areas, and then they always pop up in missions with like V, and it's just like, why?
Yeah, but as far as practical enemies, they work really well. It's just like I said, the level design and like how the enemies are handled isn't the best. Like they could have been. Some of the enemies need to be moved around.
Okay, no, actually, hang on. Let me clarify fast. Regarding level design, most of his level design is garbage for his playstyle. They cramp you into a small fucking room and then tell you fight.
Oh yeah, they made you fight Riots in the I think Mission 5 in like the tunnels.
Yeah. I think that's
which is stupid. It's like the Riots need first of all, you need to have room to spread your legs. Riots need to have room to jump around so you can actually fight them.
Yeah, so you have the small tunnel at the beginning, and then when you're on the train station... Oh, yeah, Mission 5, you're right. And then on the train station later, when they're respawning consistently, you're stuck in a cramped room with like 50 enemies as either V or Nero. Nero can manage it just fine, but V's like, kill me now.
For someone who's a casual, you seem to have a pretty intimate knowledge of like the bad parts of like V's gameplay.
Well, because as much as I am a V main, if I were to categorize DMC5 like the character I played the most, it would be V. And because I played V the most and know his gameplay the most, because it is the simplest of the three gameplays by a decent margin, it's immediately apparent for even the most casual player how bad V sections are fucked up depending on what you're doing. And V's mission design is atrocious for his playstyle. And you can't ignore it because V's not like Dante and Nero who can make things work. You need shit to have a decent time with V. The only reason Bloody Palace works is because it's just a little bit bigger than the fucking room you're stuck in.
Right. So I will say that most of the enemies that stand out to me are just ones that like I would probably say the Red Impuza. And then, because
are you referring to the one with the blood orbs, or are you referring to just like
the one with the blood orbs? Because it's literally just the Impuza, but just made to give you more money. That's a waste of an enemy.
Oh, and how it also fucking tries to run away. It almost never attacks you.
Yeah, and it has hyper armor.
Yeah,
on, like,
and
the
it's
back.
fucking super fucking. It also has, I think, like significantly more health. I don't know the exact percentage, but I'd say it's a
Oh
significant
yes,
percentage.
it does. It's significantly higher because the orbs count as like part of its health, I guess. It's I hate it for the same reason I hate the leg scarecrow outside of the normal scarecrow, because that enemy could have just had two attacks and it wouldn't have warranted the inclusion of another enemy. Mega Scarecrow is completely different because its hitboxes are huge. It has multiple different spinning attacks. It has retaliations. It's completely different, and the way you juggle it is different. But I'll offer the same criticism to that as I do to like the if anyone's familiar with DMC3's prides. The Hell Pride and the Hell Envy. They're literally the same thing. The Envy is just weaker. They have the exact same attacks. The Envy
Envy is which one is that one?
the one that's it's this the one sin that's summoned via water. All the other ones are
Oh, okay. I thought that was gluttony.
no. Gluttony is the one that shoots sand out of his mouth at you.
All right, I'll believe you. But for like when you're
You
gonna
you know
talk
which
about
one I'm referring to? The one that
yeah, yeah,
you
you're referring to
again
the,
find
yeah, you're
it.
referring to the one side Leviathan. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. That it
But
says there the ignis flat, the item that you get from it, is referred to as the item of it's filled with the souls of jealousy.
no,
So
like, I mean, I believe you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just wanted to clarify for people watching this because I might have an idea of what you're talking about,
yeah,
but people might not.
mission. Anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, Mission 8, DMC3. When you go to that one room where you kill a bunch of prides in front of an object to grab a glowing bulb that lights up the room, and you take it to unlock the room to the heart of the Leviathan. The enemies that fight you in there are known as Hell Envies, or the Sin Envies, or whatever. They're exactly the same as Hell Prides. They're exactly the same. The only difference is that they're weaker and they summon via water. They didn't need to be in that game. And I'll offer the same argument for the Red and Poozas. It's actually even worse for the Red and Poozas because they don't even fight back.
Yeah, no,
They
Ren
just
and
run
Poozas
away.
are. Those are one of the strangest design choices I think I've seen in a video game in a long time.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I could have a different, like, whereas I could say the Impuza Queen is probably a better example of, like, if the Impuza were the Scarecrow, the Impuza's Queen is the mega Scarecrow.
Yeah.
Like, an accurate example of an over, like, a mega sized enemy that serves a completely different purpose, but with the same kind of move set designed in mind. Uh, I did like the way the Impuza Queen is handled. I know some people didn't like it because they don't like her giant like jump attack, where she just
I
like
personally think the Impuza Queen's hitboxes are not accurate. That's my problem with Impuza Queen. I'm like fucking a decent chunk away, and she's still hitting me. That was my biggest problem with her.
my problem was her weird grab. Like
Oh yeah, that grab was fucking.
the
That was something
grab the
else.
grab I think needed to be like adjusted. Her jumps I think were fine. Her basic slashes were just fine. I think the tells needed to be a little bit better, but on wholesale, I know what Capcom was going for. I think they just messed up a little bit.
I'm telling you right
Um,
now, her hitboxes are not accurate to what she's doing. Because the reason people hate the jump is because the hitboxes just aren't accurate. You dodge it and it still hits you.
Also, Nero has kind of an unfair advantage against the Impuza Queen because as soon as he staggers her, if you have the Buster, or if you after you've beaten the game, if this is on higher difficulties or even lower difficulties, if you go back for S ranking, achievement hunting, or if you just want to do it for red orbs to level up your stuff, whatever the reason, when you fight an Impuza Queen again, when you have the bringer, you can just grab her in the middle of the animation, and she just gets punished. Uh, I think Nero having like a significantly higher advantage against them is a little stupid. I wouldn't make the same argument for basic enemies because they have so little health in comparison and just become combo food. Whereas most mini bosses have a large amount of armor and they have to. I mean, they're mini bosses. They're meant to like fight you. They're meant to present a higher threat to you. I'd be kind of disappointed if they didn't have something to protect them. And armor is generally how these enemies get designed. This is not the first time armor has been introduced. I mean, if you think about it, Mephistos and Fausts, they have armor.
No, but I
Like,
think I
granted,
think in reference though to this situation, Mephisto and Foss, their armor was integral to their gameplay and how to beat them. Whereas with the mini bosses here, they just have armor. You can't stop that.
well, not exactly, because if you hit them enough times, you do stagger them. and then you can punish them after they get staggered. Like with Dante, you can real impact the Apusa Queen into like oblivion if she gets staggered. Like if she fucks up and she messes up a strike and you guard it or something, you release, and then she like staggers, teleport over to her, real impact, or hit her with some really strong move or like a stun move. Or V, summon Nightmare, or do whatever you need to do. For Nero, pick one of the 20 different hard-hitting options that he has between the very obvious grab her with a bringer. She, like, I don't think she's one of my favorite enemies, but as far as mini-bosses, she may be one of my favorite mini-bosses in the series.
Okay, well,
just because,
like, how many mini-bosses in the series you're saying?
Yeah, in the series. Well, there aren't too many mini-bosses in the series. That's the thing, because, like, all the enemies that were in DMC 1 that were carried over to 4 and 5, they weren't mini bosses in their own games. I don't really talk about the ones in 2. 3, I would say the only mini bosses we have in 3.
Best mini boss, tank.
The only mini bosses we have in 3 are maybe like the Queen, the King, and the Fallen.
No. In 3, your mini bosses are technically.
If you want to count if we're counting the Abyss, then okay.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't think
the Abyss.
I feel like the Abyss is still a lesser demon. Like I think that's because it's if we're counting that, then there's no way I can pick the Abusa Queen.
Well, I mean, look. So let's see. Let's be okay. So what would you classify as a boss, as specifically as a boss enemy or as a mini boss then?
Something that provides enough threat to damage you like a boss, but doesn't have anywhere near the amount of health, and its patterns are significantly different from the rest of like lesser enemies. Like they have.
I hate to be the one to break this to you, then that would perfectly encapsulate the fucking Abyss.
But the Abyss doesn't have any armor. Like
he does have some armor, but he just doesn't have as much.
No,
he has some armor. He just doesn't have as much to be as noticeable.
He has no armor. He has a guard.
No. He has armor. If you hit him with Rebellion, there are some attacks that you just aren't going to be able to stagger him out of.
That's not actually true. Like, that's not...
I want your video evidence later today, Mangler!
You're doing the video with me!
Angler, I want your evidence later today!
Dude, you can stagger him with literally anything. You could stagger him with your precious Cerberus.
Of course you can stagger him with Cerberus. Everything is with Cerberus in that game.
Cerberus has less stagger than Rebellion.
Dude, he's literally weak to ice. That's not even a fair argument.
It just has an ice effect.
Dude, every time you see ice on somebody, they're weak to ice.
That's a status condition.
That's because they're weak to it. It's supposed to tell you they're weak to the weapon.
Wait, but what about all the other weapons? Like, what about, like, Nevin? What about, like, fucking Beowulf? What about Agni and Rudra? Even if Rebellion didn't stagger, 80% of the weapons do. And that's just the sword.
Well, then it should be no problem to prove this.
That would just, even if you were correct, if you're not.
Well, where's the research? Give me the variables.
Also, I don't think Abyss is unique enough to be a mini-boss because its attacks just consist of having the, what's it called?
Range?
All it has is the sloth's little water. It has basically water versions of the sloth's teleports with a ranged attack. And then it has, like, the Hell Pride and the Hell Lust's movesets and mobility. That's really it. Like, it's just a combination of, like, 3 different enemies.
I mean, that's fair. That is fair.
I could say the same thing about the Impuza, but the problem with the Impuza is that, like, the Impuza has, like, extended movesets of some of the original ones. Like I can't look at the basic Impuza and say that it has, like, a 3-hit... Well, okay, it sort of does, but it does like
have
the
a 3.
hitboxes...
It does. The Impuza
the hitboxes are not comparable.
Yeah, because the hitboxes actually work on the Impuzas.
No, I mean, like, what's it called? The hitboxes of the Impuza Queen towards you are way bigger than the base Impuza. Like, they're so significant.
They're also way bigger than the actual attack itself.
She also has, like, the giant jump attack, which none of the Impuzas have, because you have just basic Impuza. You have the green Impuza, which flies around and plays medic evac. And then just gets destroyed in 2 seconds because you target it first.
Oh, I actually that flying enemy was also, I think, a bad decision to add into the game.
I don't think it was too bad because generally speaking, you're gonna target it anyway. I just because it can only heal everybody in close proximity to it once.
But it
If
also
it
has
could heal
one
multiple times,
projectile that you hardly ever see, so it can easily just
yeah,
ruin
no,
your
no, no.
fucking.
That should have shown up more frequently, and the tell should have been better. But other than that, I think it was a solid flying enemy. I don't mind having a medic enemy. That's like if I have the ability to heal myself, I think it's fair that the enemy should at least have some option to recur health.
Nah,
It
they can
just
go
I
fuck
think it needs to
themselves.
be practical. I think it needs to be practical. I don't think they should be able to recur health forever.
Well, to be fair, he does have a cooldown.
Yeah, no, no, no. He can't just spam it. Like I've never seen a green. I've put like 280 hours into this game. I have never seen a green Impusa ever heal an entire group of enemies twice.
Yeah,
Or
because after he heals him
I've
the
never
fucking
let
first
one
time,
move.
yeah, because after he heals him the first time, everyone fucking just jumps
Well,
on
there's a
him.
lot of times where they don't even get the first time off because I just target them immediately.
So on occasion, I'm pretty sure some people can agree with this one. On occasion, I kind of leave them alone because like I go after the other enemies, and then they just make me fucking regret it by coming back and just healing that one fucking enemy.
All in all, I think it's a solid mini boss. I definitely think it's better, even if you don't want to say it's the best in the series. If you think Abyss is a mini boss it is a better mini boss by definition because it's arguably like the best enemy in the series. No one's gonna sit here and argue that like fucking Frosts are better than the Abyss. I know some people in DMC4 like they'll some people a lot of the people who love like the system and physics in DMC4 like just say that it has the best enemy
I
design.
mean,
It
best
doesn't.
mini boss period.
Wait, what?
Um,
Porque, o sea, te puedo esperar, nomás estoy diciendo porque van a ser las 12.
sí, entiendo.
¿A qué horas vas a entrar?
A las dos. Vamos a las una.
Ok, yo voy a empezar a cambiar, me voy a almorzar y ya tú le tanteas a qué horas. Nos vamos a la una, vamos a las tiendas, nos vendemos y luego te llevo a trabajar.
No, me quedo listo para ir.
¿A
Para
trabajar?
que, ya, porque si tiempo va, nomás nos vamos a trabajar.
Vamos a ir a la tarde para que a ver qué wipes hay, a ver qué han puesto nuevo.
Sí,
Y luego hay a la Food for Less. Y ya lo que no encuentro en la Food for Less, me vengo a la Vallarta y a la Guadalajara.
sí.
Ok.
Did you catch any of that, Mangler?
Well, it's been a while since I've taken Spanish in high school, so no.
Alright. Basically, our time is gonna be a little cut short. Like, I still got like roughly like another hour-ish or so, probably like another 40-ish minutes.
Yeah. So we can get through most of the
Yeah.
enemy design. We pretty much covered level design. So
Okay, now hang on a minute. We're going mini bosses here. So, personally, and I know you're gonna disagree with this one, I do think the best mini boss is going to be DMC4's Alto Angelo. It's just that Dante sucks. Like, with everyone else, he feels fair and fun to fight against, just not with Dante. Because Dante's
I
swinging
could
that
see
fucking
I
paddle.
could see that as a heavy contender. Well, wait. If we're going to talk about them, I think we need to define for like the audience like what mini bosses are like what we can classify as mini bosses in 5. Because I think you have an idea of this, but we need to make it clear.
Okay, so in... Oh, yeah, I guess go ahead since you have the actual list up.
So obviously, Impusa Queens, Hell Judicas for one, because there are
That is the... Is that the general, or is that the, like, small
that's
fucking...
that's the of the hell ones being the Hell on Torah who basically retaliates with the butcher.
Yeah.
The Hellcana who's essentially the Hell Pride, who's
Okay, so
confirmed to be the Hell Pride actually.
Is
Hell
it?
Judica. Well, yeah, because in what's it called in Nico's what's it called in Nico's description it says like time was these things appeared on the mortal plane by possessing a wooden doll lump of clay or something similar. Now they're walking around because the barriers between the human world and demon world breaking down.
So they brought back one of the better designed enemies and made him worse. Gotcha.
Yeah, no, they didn't give him. We'll get into why that is, but the Hell Judica is the third one, the one with the purple veins all over his body.
Yeah, so that's the general that like you can't fucking hit on the ground because you'll lose the
Yeah,
away.
he teleports away for 50 million years. He shoots the little like fire hell hands out of the ground, and he summons other enemies. So him, let's see. I think you could probably argue the Death Scissors is a mini boss.
I can't say Dead Scissors in this game are a mini boss because like first off they're Dead Scissors. They're not like they're not the
They're Death Scissors. They're not Sin Scissors.
Yeah, so which ironic that in a game with Sin Devil Trigger, the Sin Scissors don't show up, but whatever.
Well, the Death Scissors are the strongest version of the like the Sin Scissors and the Sin Scythes were the basic ones. The Death Scythes and Death Scissors were always the strong
No, I think
enemy.
no. That's wrong. It was originally the death ones, then it's the sin ones.
No. It wasn't. It was the other way around.
Hang on, let me look this up real quickly.
Yup. I got DMC3 here too.
Okay.
I can look at it right now.
Don't make cry. Well, no. Okay, I'm talking about DMC1 right now, though.
Yeah, no. In DMC1, they're called Death Scissors and Death Scythes. The original ones are Sin Scissors and Sin Scythes. And
okay,
when
you're right.
When they fought them in 1, they also had the entire area dedicated to them. Like when you fought a Sin Scissor or not a Sin Scissor, a Death Scythe or a Death Scissor, there were no other enemies in the area when they fought. They took over the entire area because they demanded all of your attention. They were that much of a threat. So,
well, and also the fact that they fucking half the time they close off their area just to fight you.
Yeah, no, I don't think we can classify mini bosses the same way in 5 that we can in 1. But like, he is significantly greater of a threat. Though if you don't want to take that one, maybe honorable mention, Fury needs to be considered a mini boss.
Fury is a boss.
Yeah, no. Fury is literally like, hey boy, where do you think you're going? Let me teleport over to you. Let me just I saw DMC3. I liked Virgil, and I decided to cosplay as him while also being a red lizard. That's just Fury. He's just Virgil's teleports.
And hey, casual. I hear you wanted to have a fun time. Let's fix that.
Also, he's one of the only bosses that I would say subscribes to the same kind of. He's probably the only bosses. One of the only mini bosses that, although if you want to be technical here, he's well for some reason he's not classified under the boss category. Proto-Angelo or School to Angelo is.
Well, you tell me the little fucking white dude is under there, but not fucking the fucking yeah. Chad Fury.
A Fury who, like, every time the Fury spawns, he fights you one-on-one. Like, you never fight anyone else with the Fury. Like, if you do, it's another Fury. Like, it's never, like, another enemy. Like, they have the whole area dedicated to themselves, just like in 1. It's like, yeah, you need my full attention. Proto-Angelo, I think it's fair to say we can call him a mini-boss. In the Bloody Palace Rush, he is one of the, right before, when you have the mini-boss rush, right before you fight the Urizen battles, he is one of the ones that gets summoned alongside the Fury and the Black Goat, and I think the Behemoth gets summoned as well.
Yes.
As well as the Nobody.
Speaking of which, is the Behemoth the one that fucking eats people, like with the 2 tongues?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say we should probably include him. He was a terrible character. He was terrible.
Yeah, no, he's a terrible enemy. Nobodies, I think you can fairly consider mini bosses in this game because if they weren't buffed so high, I wouldn't have because they were never mini bosses in 1. But my goodness, in this game, they are disgusting.
Well, to be fair, their competition in 1 was some of the most busted enemies in the entire series with Shadow and shit.
Well, I mean, Shadow at least had the decency to show up and do the same thing that Death Scissors and Death Scythe did. They took the entire area to themselves. Problem with Shadow was that Shadow summoned multiple shadows.
I was gonna say, yeah, the problem was that you fucking had fucking 5 of them.
5 of them, at most 2 of them, but like 2 feels like.
I remember there was one with at least 3, but I think it's on hard difficulties.
No, that's the one where there's at least 3. I think that's a secret mission in one of the.
No. Okay, so I'm gonna say my experience here, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember distinctly that in the mirror room, I think after you get the Philosopher's Stone, or when you're creating it, when there's the time limit still there, you have to fight 3 shadows at that point. Hard difficulty.
So there, you do fight 2 shadows on the higher difficulty in that room, but it's not in the mirror dimension. It's right after you beat Nello Angelo the first time.
Can anyone in the chat comments there when you guys see this confirm or deny? Let's continue for now.
Yeah. So I feel like putting Lucicina as a mini boss, but like
Lucicina,
the Black Goat. Demon.
I mean, that's fair to call it a mini boss because it does have pretty good armor and pretty good stagger like things, but
massive amounts of health.
Yeah, that's
Nobody, Behemoth. I guess if you wanted to count them, they would be Nobody, Behemoth, Proto Angelo, Fury, Impuza Queen, Hell Judica, and then maybe Lucicina and Death Scissors. So we've got like 6 actual mini bosses and 2 candidates for minions. That is a fuck ton of really strong enemies. I have a problem with all these different types of unique enemies showing up and being this strong. Granted, some of them are handled correctly. I do think the Proto Angelo and the Impuza Queen, if it wasn't for the amount of health that they had, they're practical enemies that are completely honest. Yeah, the grab for Impuza Queen is pretty stupid, but like other than that, her entire moveset's fine. The grab just needs to be like slightly.
Again, her problem is her hitboxes more than anything else. They're not accurate to the model itself. It's I think the only enemy in DMC. Well, let me rephrase that. It's one of the 3 enemies in DMC 5 who has this problem, but the other 2 are bosses, so that gives a pass.
Yeah. So Proto Angelo, you can't sit here and tell me that's not honest. He telegraphs his attacks at you from 5 miles away.
Proto Angelo is just stupidly fucking beefy. That's his fucking problem.
Health just needs to be nerfed. Other than that, he's a great enemy.
Like when you fucking go into him on later fucking difficulties, my goodness, get ready to pop out the popcorn and have a fucking entire life's good journey.
Yeah, kill every other enemy in the room first, and then have a one-on-one with him.
Which will take you at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, it'll take a while.
And if it's not 10 minutes, it feels like 10 minutes, which is
I think
worse.
that's a great enemy. It just needs to be nerfed.
Yeah, okay, so on lower difficulties, it's great. Just not at the point, just not on the higher difficulties, that DT fucking boost is a bit too fucking much.
Yeah. Now let's talk about one of the bad ones in the room, the Behemoth. Okay, this enemy is literally just a tank that's weaker than the Proto Angelo that just runs around and disrupts your combos and just sits there and waits to get hit.
Oh, it also does significantly more damage than his basic attacks as well. Can't forget that little chestnut.
Yeah, the only way this thing is even remotely manageable is if you have banked Royal Guard or like you sit back and try and camp it out with like Kalina Ann or DT buff moves or using Send DT or hitting it with like the strongest real impact you have, like just hitting it with the strongest attacks in Dante's arsenal immediately, or in V's case, hitting it over and over with the automatic summons, going into promotion, and then immediately blasting it with your Mega Laser. That's like, if not that, Nero's is at least manageable because he can grab it and ride it around. Well, okay, V can technically ride it around, but he has to like kill it first.
No, yeah, with V, you can only do anything to him when he's already dead. Otherwise, you have to pray your summons kill him fast enough.
Yeah, because he will one-shot your summons on higher difficulties, and his hitboxes are quite
on higher difficulties, he'll one-shot V practically. And now, I would say his hitboxes are slightly more unfair than the Impusa, but his tongue moves around a lot when he's running, so I can give him some more leeway. But his damage is absurd for what they designed him as.
Yeah, his tongue should not function as feet as well. That makes his tells really hard to see.
Yeah, his fucking tongue over there is like, hey, I hear you enjoyed living.
Also, why does he have 2 tongues? What the hell?
Because apparently one tongue swipe was too easy.
So, terrible enemy. Nobody. Any thoughts?
Okay, so nobody. Okay, so let's start off with nobody. Let's start this off. Actually, I did not have a bigger problem with nobody personally. I think the nobody was manageable. There were some instances where he was kind of fucking stupid, but he was never in a situation where I thought to myself, I want to blow my brains out across the floor.
Yeah, but you mainly played V, didn't you?
Yeah, no. So let me get into the problems here. He is hyper aggressive, and micromanaging multiple nobodies with V's summons is a fucking nightmare. Especially because whenever fucking they show up, they're like, "Hey V, I see you're in this claustrophobic room. Don't mind if we stop on by." The eyes are a fucking travesty. I don't know why the fuck the eyes hitbox is so fucking massive.
Yeah, no, this kind of gets into one of the biggest problems I think a lot of people have with the enemy design in 5. It's not as distinct as it is in 3. So this game takes a lot of points from 3. But one of the things it fails to take is just the overall appeal of like what enemies look like. So in 3, the reason why you can tell where a lot of attacks are coming from is the audio is very distinctive. When an enemy attacks you, they make a large scream, right? As well as having good tells. The Hell Prides and the Hell Lusts, they have completely different color schemes. So you like when you look at the Pride and you see the black color scheme, you associate black with like a slower attack. But when you see the red indicate like fury and quick speed, and this thing is just running back and forth, making a lot of like
telegraphing in DMC5. I've never heard of it.
Yeah. So when you see the nobodies,
you can't.
One of the main mechanics they have is, well, 2 things besides their hyper armor and their stupid grabs, is the ability to start dancing and absorb demonic power, which never really happened to me. That happened maybe once because I never let them.
I actually was wondering if they still had that ability or not. I never ran into it.
They do. It's confirmed they have it in the gallery. But I've never had it happen to me because I've killed them every time before they could do anything. It just took so fucking long because of the masks. See, the masks, when they put them on, the masks aren't like significantly different colors. They just have sort of a different design.
Yeah, because one of them is like a standard mask, and the other one is like tentacle mask, and I think there's a third one, but I could be wrong there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a third one, but I haven't found it. I could be wrong as well, but it like there isn't enough of a distinctive difference between that mask and like they need to be completely different colors. One of them shouldn't be brown and gold. They should be like distinctive ones like blue or like black or something. Like I should be able to look at them and see from a distance, oh, he's got the mask on that does this attack. Like the attack should be brighter in the graphics engine so I can tell like what he's doing specifically. Even if you want to make them hyper aggressive, as long as I can tell what the attacks are, I think generally it's going to be manageable. They could have made nobody like.
I mean, for me though, the problem was when you can't predict their physical moves. They don't have tells for their kick or tells for their arm grab or anything. They just do it. That was the biggest problem with V, because I'm trying to play safe and I'm thinking he's gonna do something, and then he immediately just kicks me all the way across the room and ends my existence. You know, as nature intended it, apparently.
I'd also like to talk about the Hellbat. I actually like the Hellbat. I just don't think the Hellbat shows up too often.
I do not. I personally do not like the Hellbat because, for one thing, it blocks most range projectiles. It doesn't block V's lightning, as far as I'm aware. But V's aerial game is so weak that every time the Hellbat showed up, I was just like, kill me now.
Like I said, like certain enemies needed to be shifted around.
Nightmare should have had the ability to blast the air.
So I would say nobody's good enemy in concept executed poorly.
They have very few flaws inherently. It's really just clarity they need help with. Everything else is fine.
Yeah. Now the Hell Judicas. Oh boy.
Everything.
What do we start with?
Everything fucking wrong with the Hell Judicas.
Okay, so let's start with one thing that I found to be interesting. They have the spawn mechanic. They have the so for those of you who are familiar, or even those who don't remember, in DMC3 there is a spawn mechanic that exists with one of the Hell Sins, known as the what's it called? I believe it's.
I don't think this one's Rat. This one is
Greed.
Is this Greed?
I'm pretty sure it's Greed.
I think Greed's the teleporting one.
No. Sloth is the white teleporting one.
Yeah,
Lust
right.
is the red rush one. Pride is the black one. Envy is the slow brown one that does the exact same thing. Gluttony is the one that shoots sand at you. Wrath is the detonating one that carries the giant bulb on his back. So Greed has to be the one with a coffin.
Greed has to be
Greed just has a couple basic moves, and he'll only really retaliate to you, and then after he retaliates, he will immediately put his little coffin to the ground, and if you damage him, do a lot of quick hits on him, you can kill him before they spawn in. And if he dies before the souls hit the ground, they get canceled.
Yes.
So, you can't really cancel Judica's spawns.
Okay.
Granted, he only does them once. So even if you don't, they're not anywhere near as bad.
Okay, so let's go and cover that. Okay, so you can cancel Judica's spawn, or more specifically, you can cancel the animation before they spawn. But if the animation reaches a certain point, the enemy will still spawn, even if you stop them.
Oh wait, yeah, no, fuck, I forgot. My bad.
It takes a lot to do it, and as a V player, it took a lot, and by a lot I mean I summoned Nightmare half the time to do it. But you can knock him out of the animation, unlike with the greed. But the difference here is with the greed, if you killed them in time, they wouldn't spawn. With this guy, if their head starts popping out, they're going to come out no matter what.
I would also like to mention that the ranged attacks, I think, of the Judica are actually pretty fine. The what's it called? The flame portals that he puts at the bottom that shoot the lines up to you and shoot the giant tree at your foot. Like when he shoots, he basically slams his little sights down on the ground, and it shoots these flame hands out of the ground that start traveling towards you slowly, and then when they reach your position, they shoot a tower out of the ground. They're telegraphed very well. You see them from a mile away. They're a little bit slow, and as they're moving, I'm pretty sure they make a screaming sound to indicate like the people trapped in hell or something. So
you mean everybody?
Those are fine. When he pulls his arm back and tries to do the long swipe, that's also fine. Because it takes him like almost a full second before he does it. So you can see it from a mile away. Good tells. They're strong moves. So if you don't read them, you get punished. That's your own fucking fault. My problem with this thing is that it teleports way too much. And its teleports are way worse than the Furies. Because at least with the Fury, I have things that I can do to manage the Fury from being a problem, or I can knock the Fury out of something, because the Fury doesn't waste any time messing around. Like, as soon as you attack it, he fades in and out and then goes right back to attacking, so you can knock him out quickly. Like, the fight, you can have your problems with the Fury, but the fight will be over with the Fury really quickly. Either you will die or he will die really quickly, and that will be it. The Judica wastes so much time just kind of standing there and being like, hey, and then just like summons enemies, teleports away, sort of does his like weird attack, and then teleports away, does the weird tower rise attack, which I think the hitboxes on that are kind of funky, but that's just me. The one benefit of this enemy is that it can be affected by some of Dante's status conditions, and that when you hit it with the electric Cerberus, it will be stunned longer when it's down.
Thank God so Dante has some counterplay against it.
Well, Nero does as well. If Nero Bringers it
exists in the world of V.
If you're V, you're fucked. You basically just have to hit him with a one-shot ability that's strong. You have to beat him in a war of attrition, which I think is the problem. Because this enemy has a lot of solid design concepts. My problem is that he just teleports.
Okay, so let me go over my personal grievances with this character. Yes, the teleport is far too frequent, and there are times where even like when you barely start hitting him, he'll just teleport away. He'll be like, "No, I don't want to fight you yet," and he'll do this repeatedly.
Yeah, no, I think there should have been a way to avert this, like a certain frame window that would have been good enough. And it's not like oh, the Void will help you practice. It doesn't. I can practice on the Furies in the Void. I can, because all you have to learn is the timing for when they attack you. There is almost no timing for the Judicas. Like, you either have to stun them or one-shot them.
You either kill them or they just run away forever.
Like, you either play Nero or Dante, you're fucked. Like, just if you play V, and there are multiple sections where V has them. V has them in his first mission. Yeah. Literally right before he goes to Nihawk. A Judica shows up and you're like,
yep,
oh, wow.
that is one of the fucking worst V sections. Especially because Nightmare... This is the one area I don't think I've ever seen Nightmare Meteor into. The perfect area for a Nightmare Meteor. And he's like, oh, hey, boss, let me just break through reality. You son of a bitch! The one time I need you to come down like a ball of fire, and you're just like, go fuck yourself.
So...
Nightmare should count as a mini-boss for how fucking shit his spawns are.
Zim, am I cutting out at all?
As far as I can tell, no.
Okay, I just need to make sure, because I'm going to go back and watch this and see if the quality is better than previous videos. So I think in concept, again, just like Nobody, a good concept, just poorly executed. His armor in tangent with the sheer amount of armor that he has, like, it just doesn't work. Unless, if you're Nero, okay, you can, like, bringer him, but that's it. You can bringer him, you can air combo over Let's Spin.
I think we have to specify that the game seems heavily designed in favor of Nero than the other characters. But that's just because Nero has busted fucking mechanics. So I think to say, like, it's fine if you're Nero, every character in this game is fine if you're fucking Nero. It's manageable with Dante. It's hell with V.
It's mostly fine if you're Dante. It's mostly fine if you're Dante.
Yeah, because Dante has
really stupid unfair advantage with some of his abilities. Like, Balrog just allows him to completely ignore the Fury. Cerberus allows him to ignore the Judica in some capacity, and his range capabilities completely eliminate.
You can never fully ignore the Judica. Like, you can never fully run away from your mistakes.
You can just make it. You can just make it ignore you. That's all you can do.
I also will say I hate that when he summons the other hells, it's always two, and it's always the same two creatures. Like, it never varies up. Now, granted, I wouldn't want two big guys, but it is always annoying that he summons two of the exact same guys, and they don't drop levels
Yeah,
when you kill
I
them.
would have preferred him to summon some, like, maybe the weak Pyrobats, maybe one Pyrobat and an Impusa, or a Skuldo Angelo, or maybe a Riot. Maybe that might be too much.
Like, just something else. Like, like maybe have some variety there.
I mean, it does make him a little bit more predictable, but again, with all the
predictable. I love
this would be less of a problem if his spawn thing was the only problem with him, or the largest.
And I also do hate you can't do anything to him on the ground. In fact, if you get him on the ground, he immediately resets his entire fucking situation. So you're
just
like,
leaves.
Yeah, you're just heavily encouraged not to fucking drop him to the ground, which I find kind of ridiculous. Every other enemy in the game, you want to drop him to the ground? Go for it, buddy. All yours. This guy? What the fuck are you doing, you fucking idiot? Why would you drop him to the ground?
Yeah. Overall, same thoughts on it. I have the same thoughts on it as a nobody. Good idea, poorly executed. So,
who's next?
I would say the last one we have to go over is probably... Well, we went over what our thoughts on the Hell on Tour is. Like, it just retaliates. It's just the Hellcana. It just retaliates. If the window for it to retaliate was better, like a little bit better, and that retaliation was only on the ground and at certain points in the air, I think I'd be fine. I think the Hell on Tour was so close to being a good enemy, it just messed up.
It's like, it was so close that it hurts me that it wasn't.
Yeah, it does. Death Scissors would, I think, be the last one. Because we're not going to cover Skuldo Angelo because he's literally just a more honest version of Proto Angelo with a shield. I really like that enemy. There's not much to talk about. He's a solidly designed enemy.
All right.
So Death Scissors would be the last one. Death Scissors, I have kind of mixed feelings on them. I like the fact that you can kill the Death Scissors immediately if you get him in like that.
Immediate fucking kill things are something we haven't touched on because only Proto Angelo, the Death Scissor. I think those are the only two that have insta death moments where you can just instantly kill them no matter what their health is.
Wait, there's an insta death moment for Proto?
For V there is. I've seen it happen a couple of times where like he gets staggered for like a split second and he turns blue. So I know it exists for him with V. I don't know if it exists for the other characters. But
I've never had this happen with any of the other players.
Okay, so it might be a specific V thing because maybe they felt pity on V players for once.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. Like this is, I'm trying to think of any other games in which they have instant death options. Given that this is sort of the way that the Sin Scissors, Death Scissors, well, the Sin Scissors in general functioned, I think they were trying to make the Death Scissors more accessible by allowing you to like combo him. And then what I liked about this was that they made it so that his like the armor on his body is relegated to his weapon. So
yes,
you can still kind of like range him. You can play him in various different ways. The only problem is that like sometimes you won't be able to jump high enough off his body to avoid the spin when he retaliates. Other than that, it just takes a little bit of time. I do like his attacks. They did a really good job there. I think they should have given him one more attack, but overall, it was a solid callback to DMC1. And I like
it was the in my personal opinion, it was the overall best mini boss. Like best design. There's like almost no real problems with him. He's fair. My only problems with him come from just like V existing the way V does, so I can't really sit here like, oh, it sucks because V can't do this. But there's like nothing inherently wrong with the boss itself or with the creature itself.
It'd be like saying there's an issue with the Frost in DMC4 because Dante doesn't have enough stagger value to like juggle them.
Yeah, that's a problem with like the character itself, which I guess I didn't really fucking extend on. Did we ever talk about playable V actually? I mean, we're not gonna do it now, but like I just need to remember for later because I might have to.
I think we did. I'm pretty sure we did. No, because we got through it, and I said the only thing we have to talk about is like level design and enemy design now, and then like bosses.
I better have bitched about it the appropriate amount.
Yeah, well, we can always touch up on that and quality of life improvement. So, how much time do you have left?
I still got probably another 30-ish minutes, so we can move on to bosses.
Okay, so well, let me just check and make sure. Do it once over. So we talked about all of those. We covered the chaos, which is basically the fury. Yeah, I think that was pretty much everybody. Oh wait, the Hellcanas.
Hellcanas
Hellcanas
Are you gonna count those
overall.
as mini bosses?
No. It just is a
Oh,
minor
just in
enemy that
general?
we didn't go over.
They're fine.
So they're fine. I think they were done well, but they have the same problem that a lot of basic enemies have in this game. Certain ones don't. I think out of all the basic enemies that are done solidly, like the Impuza, the what's it called, the Pyrobats, the Scoldo Angelo, and the Riots, they don't suffer from this problem. Can you guys guess what it is? It's the color scheme. It's the aesthetic. So aesthetic, as I said, doesn't really matter too much in gameplay. However, there are contexts where it's relevant. Like I said, if I can't see the level, that's a problem. With the enemy design, aesthetic is very important because you need to make certain enemies distinctive from one another. One of the reasons why DMC3 enemies are regarded as some of the best ones overall is because even if a lot of them don't fight back or they have basic attacks, I can show a picture of the sins to Zim, and he can be like, "Yeah, I remember those because they made different sounds." Like I can show him Sloth and Pride and say these are the same enemies. He'll be like, "No, that's fucking wrong," because
Yeah.
Sloth is tall, white, slow, and teleports. Pride walks around, mobs you in in
Pride
like
is
large
just a
numbers.
punching bag.
Yeah, it becomes a punching bag and then has some slow telegraphed hitboxes. It also has like a fear factor where if you style enough, it will actually be afraid and will walk away from you.
Oh, does it?
Sloth doesn't do this. It's also like less tanky than Sloth. Like these are distinctive things about it, and they have different audio sounds. Granted, Hellcana has different sounds than Hell on Torah. That's one of the things I love about the Hell on Torah, despite its weird attacks, is that you know when the Hell on Torah is going to attack you because you hear this roar like right as you hit it, and it comes running at you. It's like the greatest thing. The problem with that is that again they just break out of everything you do. That like the level of interaction is really weird, but the response is good. It's just there's certain portions of it are good, but other portions need to be fixed. And Hellcana's example, the problem with the Kana is that its color scheme is like really fucking bland. Like it just looks like a normal like demon with some black robes. And sometimes I have a hard time distinctively like telling the difference between that and a Hell on Torah when they're in the same room, because they make similar sounds when the Hellcana is slicing its scythe along the ground in that giant run up.
Yeah.
I wish the Hellcanas would guard a little bit more, and I wish they would like.
I wish they
I
would
guess
just
I
be a
wish.
punching bag.
Yeah, I wish they were a little bit more of a punching bag, but I also wish there was like less armor on the rush move that they do, where they drag it along the ground. Other than that, I think they're a solid enemy most of the time. They're the main enemy that I practice on in the Void. So
What a surprise.
I would say they're pretty good. I think they could have been better. They're definitely not as good as the Prides, but they're pretty close.
Alright, so I guess let's go ahead and start with the bosses.
Yeah.
Goliath is the first one on the list. Well,
No. Clyfoth roots.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, the fact that you didn't even mention it means okay. So the Clyfoth roots, I think, as far as a boss that's designed to teach you to dodge things, it does really well in that regard. I think
the only thing it does really well.
Yeah, that's the only thing it does because it doesn't really fight back. The root itself doesn't do anything, and I mean, at least we could use in the example of like TTR review, like we could explain like why Urizen doesn't fight because there's like a story-based reason.
Well, my problem with the roots, okay, so stationary bosses are very rarely fun, but the difference with Urizen and the Clydefault fruit is Urizen is doing significantly more against you than the Clydefault root does, and the crystal itself moves in response to you, so it almost feels like you are fighting someone.
And when Urizen has the crystal broken, he gets punished for it. Like he suffers consequences for you being too strong or getting past his moves. Whereas the Clyfoth root doesn't really suffer any consequences outside of getting opened up to a bringer attack as you slowly
chip away his resistance.
Yeah, and on higher difficulties, it's kind of insufferable. So, just want to say it's 3 or 4.
Clearly, if there was a ball dropped anywhere, it was there.
Well, I would still say Gilgamesh is a worse boss fight because at least you can.
No.
No, it is because you can at least hit the Clive
No.
off and dodge it practically.
You can
Gilgamesh will
dodge
walk
Gilgamesh practically. The problem is that he punishes you for not doing what he wants.
No. Gilgamesh can't punish you if you just jump when you're on top.
Okay, but the problem is that when you jump off his thing and you dodge the spikes will always keep coming back until they either hit you or you get off him, and that's the
until you hit him and he falls to his knees, and then you just keep wailing on him even more.
All right, so let it be known, Mangler beats up people while they're on the floor. Truly,
I would argue Gilgamesh is a worse boss fight because Gilgamesh doesn't he's meant to be a ranged boss as indicated by the cutscenes. He because his main attack is shooting stuff at you, but you completely negate his entire arsenal by getting on top of it. It's like a boss that was created specifically for the purpose of just giving you a weapon and not with any kind of design philosophy. Because they made the cutscene and then halfway through they're like, oh god, we fucked up. We didn't give him the ability to use his actual arsenal against the player. I guess the player's just gonna crush him. But it's okay because he's not an actual boss because we retconned Gilgamesh.
But I'm not tilted.
Yeah, I'm not tilted at all. No, wait, no. I'm moving on. Goliath. Any thoughts on Goliath?
He's fine. I think he's a really serviceable beginner boss. Even if you don't want to argue he's not the first boss, because he's not, because he still fight Charioteers in first and shit. But he ultimately is the beginner boss for most players. Would think about, and he does a really good job of what he does. He has good telegraphing, good hitboxes. Or actually, I take that back. I will say his hitbox is a little wonky on his fucking rush ground hits. But for the most part, you can jump around him. You can play him around just fine. It's super easy to fight him. He's for me personally, he's just fine. My only real complaint would be his projectile attack is a little weird, and his whole tornado thing is. It should have been incorporated into some more sneak attacks. I feel like he's just too easy as a whole in later difficulties.
I think his projectile, his tornado should have had more ways to break out of it were practical, and it should have been faster to make up for that because he lets you know from a mile away that you're just gonna get sucked into it, and you can just shoot him. You can walk out of it in the church. You're supposed to walk out of it, and then he just leaves. And I'm like, well, really? If I hit you enough on higher difficulties, I might be able to ignore it completely, because if you stagger him and you knock him down after enough hits, you can then hit him with a super breakage and skip most of the fight on Son of Sparta or do massive damage on DMD mode. So there needs to be some way that he can properly retaliate against you. Not that the animation of you picking him up and throwing him into the freaking tower needs to be taken out. That needs to stay there. That is satisfying as hell, and it's very rewarding.
He also has a very rewarding.
He also has a giant hurt box, so yeah, he's obviously going to get punished by a lot of things. But again, I could just compare him to Beowulf. He's literally the same thing as Beowulf. If you look at his punches, they are exactly the same. It's just the difference is that Beowulf can be put into a wounded phase by getting attacked, and he is an aggro state in exchange for not having projectile. Well, okay, Beowulf has one projectile, and it is one of the worst projectiles in the entire series. It's light projectiles. It's I'm going to move at the speed of light, but let me just activate these light feathers that take a second to start up and not actually move, and then they'll just accelerate at maximum speed immediately.
Don't forget their homing features.
Yeah, no. They home, but the thing is, they don't home completely. They home almost as well, and he fires 6 of them. So if you trickster dash anything closer than almost the edge of the room, he will get you. Even with triple dash, which is fucking dumb. So you know that Virgil can't avoid him. So basically the only way that you can do this, I don't even think you can perfectly Royal Guard out of it, because the timing on the guard for the Royal block just doesn't work. So
what you can do is, if you're playing Virgil and you're right next to him, you can teleport the second he launches them, when they're about to hit. Because if you're close to him, you can teleport, and then they'll just come back around. And hurt you some more.
Yeah. The reason why I offer this comparison is if you guys just play them, they have extremely similar hitboxes. The angles at which they hit you, even if the hitboxes are a little bit bigger because the arenas are bigger, the patterns are exactly the same. It's a brawler boss that's big, that you jump on, that you can zone with large attacks, and you can counter. You could potentially attempt to counter their ranged attacks. Goliath is just an example of what Beowulf would be if you could juggle on him a little bit more, if he got actually punished for you hitting him outside of a specific portion of his body, which is good, because that was a problem with Beowulf. I mean, granted, it fundamentally worked with him because there was a lore explanation for why he, like again, his eye is wounded, so, you hit it, he gets punished for it, obviously. But Beowulf being able to punish on all of his, or Goliath being able to be punished for hitting him multiple times over the course of the battle was still pretty good. Again, the boss gets to suffer consequences for the player being good at the game.
Yeah.
So, what else? His projectiles just work practically. I just think he needs to do them a little bit more. Like, when he does them, the fact that you can knock them back with Gerbera, or you can just dodge them, smooth. I just don't like. My main problem with him is that besides the tornado thing, I don't like that Urizen makes more use of his fireball than he does when it belongs to him. That's stupid.
Well, I mean, Urizen's in a chair able to relax. This guy's trying to run around and hit you.
But like when he gets back and he's like, I'm gonna zone you, like he should be zoning me. He should be attempting to hit me. Yeah, if I block it, there's nothing he can do. But like, still. He should at least try, not like, let me take a million years and then I just go over there and like immediately blitz him from across the screen with a caliber. Like, it's not even trying at this point.
Mangler, you gotta stop being so oppressive to these bosses.
Yeah, so next boss, Artemis. What do you think?
Okay, so let's start with the fact once
again.
again.
Goliath was a solid boss. That was my opinion. 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 would kill again.
Yeah. Artemis. What are your thoughts?
Okay, Artemis. I guess I'll start off. Projectiles are fine. I think it's pretty fair. She does have well telegraphed attacks, so you'd have to be really not paying attention to see the attacks coming from a mile away, which is nice because her attacks are pretty fast and they have interesting patterns and different delays with the firing. Her giant laser beam, it feels a little wonky when you're trying to dodge it at a distance, but so you just get up close. Her flying is annoying.
You can also just jump over it.
I mean, you can jump over it, but like, unless you're like fucking V or Nero, who has like a way to stay in the air for longer, there's a good chance you're gonna fall back down and get hit by the whiplash of the fucking beam because it whips around. Which is a little weird. I will say that one. I think we can all agree it's a little fucking weird.
Also, when we're going over these bosses, I'd like to mention that the way that they're being represented is as if you're playing them the main game on higher or lower difficulties. We're not counting Bloody Palace because Bloody Palace right now is its own section. So obviously, like Dante fighting Artemis is a completely different example than V fighting them with limited summons and Nero. Like we're playing them as if you're playing them on higher difficulties.
Yeah,
we'll talk about.
I'm over here thinking like Nero right now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. The way they're intended to be fought.
The fucking I will say I'm not the biggest fan that they brought back the Sanctious little orb things. It's not as bad with Artemis, but the entire idea of those little orb things you have to shoot and like to get to her are shit to begin with. Like it was a stupid idea in DMC4 and it's a stupid idea now. So and they made it worse because it actually has this weird circle projectile that is super hard to fucking dodge if it gets close to you. You can't escape.
Honestly, my problem with Artemis, I think my biggest problem was that when she starts to rise into the air after shooting out some of these projectiles and having her attacks be transformed into like the Sanctus Grim Grips.
Yeah,
the lock-on is fucked. The lock-on
is fucking garbage in this fight.
Because like you're trying to do the thing is you're trying to do caliber, right? Like you use caliber to get across the room to get to her, right? And then you save your double jump and bank it so that if you get to the top and you mess up, you just jump, enemy step on her, and then you start comboing her, get her down to the ground and punish her, right? That would be how it works. but the caliber is the lock-on is completely fucked. And caliber is already a difficult thing to do for most players that aren't don't play DMC regularly, because it's a back to forward input, and it's pretty tough. It's and it's timing. I mean, granted, it's not hard for me because I play Neural all the time, but again, add that to the fact that the lock-on system is a little bit jank in this game anyway. And a boss that creates abilities that specifically fuck with the lock-on, with an ability that, again, I love Payline, but Payline sends you down to the ground. You can't use that to get forward. Caliber is the only thing that you can use is proper air momentum to get to a target that ascends above your head. So when you make my only option completely invalid by virtue of your attacks, and I have very little ways to approach you, and you're just going to go to the top of the screen and just start activating attacks that could screw me in the long run, and I can't do anything to stop them when I can do anything to stop stronger bosses and weaker bosses, it is kind of weird. It is extremely weird and stupid. So that hurts.
And that's hurts just with Nero, who's actually the best person to play this boss fight on.
Yeah, basically the only way that you stop this is that you hit her with overture bombs before she goes up there, and then you blast her, or you hit her with a rag, and then you just you keep running up there, or you hit her with punchline. You just fly your way up there. You have to use various different examples of so many options: air hiking, air taunting in between every jump, what is called flat top for a triple jump, and then wire snatches. Which the wire snatches with the lock-ons, you would think they make it better, but Sanctus did his little Grim Grips way better, and that was with a shitty snatch. That snatch was worse.
Mangler just fucking has PTSD to the time DMC4
I hate that snatch. I hate the snatch in 4. After I played 5, the snatch in 4 was garbage. It's trash. It's bad for enemy step jump canceling, and it's bad for grips because the range is worse and it's way quicker.
You're all please don't send me back to Capcom. I don't want to go back.
No, don't.
Please, Itsuno.
Now I have 2 snatches, and both of them work better.
Let me think.
So I think a projectile as a ranged boss, I think you could say overall she's better. She's a better boss than Sanctus, but the mechanics that she shares with Sanctus does them. So the little projectiles that she shoots with the hoops. Fuck hula hoops. Fuck those.
Oh, that is clean. Here, check this out. There's nothing to do with the conversation. It's just I was going through the Reddit to see if anything was going on, and this is Visions of V artist drawing Virgil and Sin DT. That is some.
Oh yes.
That is some fine ass artwork right there.
Sweet art. Okay, so all in all, I would say probably 7 out of 10. It's almost
with Nero, 7 out of 10. With anyone, well, Dante, I'll say 6 out of 10 because Dante does have mobility. With V, please, sir, can I have some more?
Dante would only be better, even though Dante's probably a worse score. Dante's more manageable just because he can
move.
He can build up damage before he goes in there. You can only really fight him in Bloody Palace, like I said. So we're not trying to count this, but if I did. He can bank an entire Royal Guard meter, entire sin.
Okay, yeah. So I guess I should clarify. Well, no, actually, since you fight Cabulera's V, I can actually talk about this.
No. What? I say for Artemis, you don't really fight him you don't fight her in the main campaign with what's it called? With Dante.
Oh yeah, with Dante, no, but you do fight her with V, so I can at least give some V criticisms.
I think
I'll save the V for Bloody Palace because you're mostly going to fight Artemis with either Griffin or Shadow. You're not going to fight the full kit, so I'll save the full kit discussion for the actual Bloody Palace section. To be fair.
Yeah. So next, Nihog. All right.
Shit. 100% shit. No. Don't even discuss it. Just say it with me now. He's shit.
We have to. So this boss suffers from
everything.
Camera control. The camera angle in this boss fight gives you the dick, as Zem says. It is so bad because it's a one-directional camera, just like Urizen's. But unlike Urizen's, you don't have a really big room. You have
Mangler, you cut out there. Repeat what you were saying.
I said, this room is not like Urizen's room. Normally, it would work with the one camera angle because Urizen is the same thing, except that the camera doesn't get better as you get closer, and you only have one cane teleport's worth of distance and a half. Whereas Urizen's is like 2 canes, if not higher. Like, it's way bigger. And you
If we're talking
Urizen's
Urizen's throne room, you can go. If you were to just travel the throne room with just V's canes, you can get at least 3 to 4 canes in before you fucking reach
Yeah,
the end.
no. If you're going left to right, yeah. So not only is it like, what's it called? Like, I want to say horizontal. Like left to right, it's really big. Nihog's it's just as lengthy as it is wide, and that's to say not at all.
It also doesn't help
really
that fucking you have to micromanage with V because you have to get DT, then you have to fucking attack with your summons, but you have to keep moving around because he keeps attacking you and doesn't give you any times to pause. Then you have to focus when he comes down. Then you have to destroy his side things as he's still attacking you. It's just a terrible boss for V. I think if any other person had fought it, it wouldn't be as.
Oh my god!
hated.
If this boss was fought with Nero, he could just first of all, the tells on the little tentacles need to be way better. They need to be way better at all.
Absolutely.
I think you need to be able to disrupt Nihog with like Griffin and Shadow's abilities. The fact that you couldn't was kind of stupid, and that you could only bring him down every now and then. And in the second phase, he just starts swiping, and he has hyper armor on the entire time. You can only stop him after you stagger the tentacles again. So he doesn't get punished for anything he does, and you do, just for like existing in the same room with him, which is really, really stupid. It's amazing to me that some people thought. Look, I'm going to say this right now. This is a better boss fight this is a worse boss fight than Garion. This is the worst boss fight in the game.
How the fuck is anyone saying this is a better boss fight?
Someone actually tried to say to me that the Garion Knight is a better boss fight, even for V, than fucking Nihog.
You
and
mean
it's like,
worse?
really? No, they were a better boss fight.
Wait. So do you not wait? So to clarify, do you not like the Garion boss fight?
No. Okay, so. I don't mind the Garion boss fight. I don't really dislike it. I said it's an all right boss fight for V. Needed to be managed. It probably would have been an amazing boss fight for Nero and Dante, but it's manageable with V. Nihog isn't manageable with V at all, and therefore, I can easily argue that the Garion boss fight would be a better boss fight for V.
Yes.
Some people actually thought that was a worse boss fight than Nihog. That Nihog in some capacity could be fun. Wow, give me some of that good shit. What are you smoking?
I was gonna say that's some next level stuff right there.
And this, I didn't see this in like the Reddit. I saw this in like the subreddit Discord. Like I was like, what do you guys think of Nihog? He's like, all right, boss, could have been better. And I'm like, what? It's like, what do you think about Gilgamesh? Is like trash boss, doesn't fight back at all, and it's bad telegraph.
Doesn't fight back at all.
I was just like, what are you talking about? That's the same complaints for Nihog. He only fights back. When he fights back, it's complete shit. He doesn't interact with you properly at all.
Basic fucks. Okay, so the next boss is, and then we'll probably finish off on this boss because it is getting close for me to have to leave, and I don't want us to go into another spiel.
The Garion Knight.
Okay,
so we already went over Gilgamesh, which comes afterwards. But the Garion Knight, I think the Garion Knight is fine. I just don't think V should have been the one to fight him.
You mean like what you can say for almost every single V mission? I don't think this should have been for V. I don't think this should have been.
So V's
missions aren't even designed for V.
So when V fights Nero's bosses, he does actually pretty well. And I love fighting like Cavalier and Goliath with V are like so good. But that's because those bosses like across the board are designed really,
it's because those bosses are good and they have room. The problem is all of V's missions have the exact mechanics you would not want in a V mission.
So the Garion boss fight room doesn't have too little space. It's just that
Ironically enough, this one needed to be smaller. Ironically enough, this was the one boss room that needed to be smaller.
It only needed to be smaller in the sense that Nightmare gets affected by the time manipulation. So Nightmare being super slow becomes massively slow, and he can never do anything.
That is a little false. Nightmare's movement speed is kind of slower in the time slow. His laser beam is not. His laser beam will move at the exact same fucking speed.
Charging his laser beam.
No. I mean his regular laser beam, not the big one. I mean just like the little small one he fires out.
Even then, like even then they need to be like in front of him. I've had so many lasers that just miss, and I'm including when I'm riding him manually in promotion.
But
or
that's
when
just
he's
Nightmare in
being
general.
fired.
Faltan fuegos.
Yeah, well, no, because Nightmare is at least able to punish most bosses. Like he can punish Nihog because Nihog's sitting in one place. He can punish fucking like Artemis, who's a flying, moving target. But he can't punish a horse that's running around on the ground and is occasionally teleporting. That's kind of stupid. Like
Yeah.
that's really really stupid.
All right,
Cavaliers hitboxes I think are fine, but like again, the way that they use time manipulation in this is not like I'm not okay with it. Like I think the time projectiles were fine because V can at least like shadow dodge out of them. The giant radius for the time space like that should have been reduced. It should not have been that big. That was
Yeah.
insane. Time jump teleports. Not really a fan of those. I made this clear in various streams when I talked about what I hate about the original Garian boss fight. They brought it back, and it's worse because I mean, at least if you had Nero or Dante, you could be like, haha, that could be interesting. I'll cancel your rag time with my rag time. Nope, you got to play it with V.
All right, Mangler. So unfortunately, I am being rushed. So I'll go. I'm gonna go ahead and put we left off on Gurion because I'll give my thoughts on it afterwards for this part 3, I guess. Now, since unfortunately we didn't have enough time to finish this one.
Yep.
To be fair though, we are an hour and 30 minutes in, so at the very least it'll be a decent chunk video.
Mm-hmm.
So I will. For those of you watching, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. Will you be free later tonight? Will you be free tomorrow morning? No, you're gonna be gone all weekend, huh?
I don't know when I'm leaving, but I probably will be. If I have the opportunity, I'll hit you up. But
Okay, so are you leave? Well, hang on,
tricky.
let me end the video first. Thank you guys for your time as always, and have a nice day.